Hello, and welcome back to the BFA Baby podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Hartman, and today we are back with another episode. This one's, again, a little more of a, not necessarily heavy, but less lighthearted topic. I'm going to talk about the strikes that have been happening in the entertainment industry over the last, year or so. It's been something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and I've kind of compiled some research, and we're going to get, a pretty base overview. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the show that I'm in. I'm currently in a show with a dance organization on campus called Most State Dance Co. And it's this whole show, and it's all rock music, and it's all dancing. It's like a dance show, and it's all rock music. And I just wanted to shout it out because it's so outside of my comfort zone, and it's so not something I usually do. I love the music. Trust me, I love the music, but it's not something I would usually go out of my way to be in and perform in. But I've just had a really great time, and, we perform it tonight, and it's been a really fun kind of way to, challenge myself, and challenge my artistry, and challenge my confidence, and it definitely challenged that stage presence, but it's been a lot of fun. So, I put a cute little outfit on, and we're gonna go dance tonight. It's kind of like a fundraiser for the organization. But yeah, I just want to shout that out and just kind of serve as an opening reminder that, sometimes getting out of your comfort zone, it'll teach you things, and it'll be fun, and, it's good for you. Step out and, feel what you like, feel what you don't, just step out of your comfort zone a little bit, and maybe it will widen the comfort zone. Maybe you'll find something that you really enjoy that you wouldn't have necessarily tried otherwise. So definitely take some creative risks. Just try something new. It'll work out in the end. Final thought before we get into the strike stuff. If I sound super okay, this is I don't condone this. Okay, so let me tell you what happened last night. So I got back from rehearsal for that Rock of Ages rock star show. I get home from rehearsal at midnight, and I go and I take my meds, and I get in the shower, and I eat a snack, whatever. And I'm ready to go to bed. So I'm sitting in my bed, and I'm I'm exhausted. And I'm oh shit, did I remember to take my medicine? And my brain is so tired. I'm exhausted. I have to be up to register for classes in the morning. It's a whole thing. And I was did I take my medicine? And I guess I just thought I didn't. So I literally took my anxiety meds again. So I took double of what I usually take, and I woke up this morning feeling weird, guys. I don't know this. Please take your meds as prescribed. Just don't do it too tired, else you forget that you did it. Please take your meds as prescribed. Thank you. Don't take a weird angle on what I'm saying here. But yeah, so I woke up feeling super weird, and then I was oh my god, you took more than you need. What was that about? So I took ballet this morning, and I was feeling really weird. I feel kind of spacey, so if I kind of trail off, I'm doing okay. I'm drinking some water. I'm gonna take a nap after this. I'm gonna chill it out. But yeah, no, I was in ballet this morning, and I was the melting emoji where his face is melting off. That's really how I felt this morning. But beyond my exhaustion and new show that I'm in, I want to talk about the strikes that have been going on in the entertainment industry. I think, so two most notably, the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, as well as the American Ballet Theater Dancers in partnership with the American, hold on, let me get that acronym right before I mess this up. I believe it is the American Guild of Musical Artists, yes. So artists of the American Ballet Theater and the American Guild of Music Artists are struck recently as of February 7th, 2024, and then as of February 16th, there was a collaborative tentative agreement made, and we're still kind of waiting on the truth, not the truth, but a solid, this is the agreement, for that. But yeah, I want to start with the SAG-AFTRA strikes, because those kind of span for longer. Not that they're more important, but they are kind of more well-known, more well-rounded. So I have I'll be looking at some articles. I have some articles from the Washington Post. This one is from the Washington Post. It's called "What Actors Won in the SAG-AFTRA Strike Deal," and also, all of the articles that I read you today, all the quotes and everything, I will link them in the show notes, so then you can go and do some digging. But for starters, the strike actually began with the Writers Guild of America in Hollywood, and they were going on strike for a couple things. They were striking for better wages, more fair wages. They were specifically like what I talked about when we played the Google autocomplete questionnaire, when I talked about writers not getting kickback from their work that's like bringing a lot of people to streaming services. So it was like fair wages in that front, fair wages in general. There was a lot of major fight about the use of AI to write scripts, and that one takes artists out of the equation, but then also, how do we know that like you're training that AI with artists' work that you have the permission to be doing it with? So a lot of like AI was a part of it. This was like this started back in the summer, so ChatGPT was kind of like starting to like really pop off, and we were like, oh, there's a big issue here for the arts. So a lot of fair wages, a lot of AI preventative measures, and the writers began this strike, and about a few weeks in, the actors of SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, and then the American Federation of Television and Radio Association, or something like that. So they voted if they were going to also join WGA on the strike, and actors were kind of having a similar thing. They were, striking for fairer pay. They were striking for AI, because if you don't know, companies are starting to use like AI replicas of their actors to like put them in films. I think my very first thought is the movie that like brought and if you're not watching, I'm doing some big air quotes right now, brought James Dean back from the dead for a movie, using like AI and deep fake technologies, and the actors really wanted to bring up the fact that they want to have, and very rightfully so, want to have control over the use of their likeness after they work with said company. So like, if I were to make a movie with Disney, because Disney was using this technology for Star Wars, is the only reason I'm pulling Disney out, because they brought Princess Leia back for a Star Wars film. But if I worked for Disney, I want to know if they're gonna like take my face and then just like digitally recreate me 50 years down the line, So there was kind of a lot of pay, a lot of AI, residuals, like all kinds of stuff that we were all striking for. And this strike got some really big names. You saw John Hamm striking, good old Missouri Boy. Mad Men, you saw Rachel Zegler. You saw Steven Spielberg went and picketed. I almost went and picketed. I genuinely almost went and picketed. I almost drove to Oklahoma to go picket with them. I couldn't get the schedule to work out. But, yeah, so I thought I would talk about the deal that the writers and actors were trying to strike up. So here are the terms of the deal as told by the Washington Post. What they called a, quote, more than $1 billion in new wages and benefit plan funding over the 3-year term of the contract. On Friday, SAG called it the largest such deal in industry history. They want to totally restructure the revenue and funding, which is completely valid. Give our artists what they deserve. So this new fund works to compensate performers for their work on streaming shows. SAG-AFTRA did not specify, however, how much studios would contribute and how the union would distribute the money from the fund. Variety previously reported that the union initially wanted 2% of streaming revenue, and that and later halved that demand to about $500 million a year before settling for $40 million a year. There was already, there was some debate about this when streaming services, when, they get the really, like, the Hulus and the Netflixes and the Primes and the Disney Pluses and all the big ones. There was really a lot of talk about where the money was going to go and who was going to get the money and what we were going to do with the money, and it was just kind of a big debate about that. So that was also a big thing about, like, the streaming services, both with writers and actors. Going back to the wages, an immediate 7% wage increase for many performers and an 11% increase for background actors. Those wages would increase again by smaller amounts in 2024 and 2025. This deal came to a reach in 2023, and it lasts for 3 years. So back in next time they will be renegotiating it is 2027, I believe, summer of 2027. I guess kind of late fall of 2027. There was also a few more, like, on-set things that the actors were specifically asking for. New terms to ensure that sets have proper hair and makeup services for all performers, including those who have diverse and textured hair and complexions, and a requirement that intimacy coordinators be hired for scenes involving nudity or simulated sex. These are all very important things, and, you're having all these actors stand up and, they're demanding this, like, they're demanding, and it's not even demanding, it is a demand because you are on strike, but it's a reasonable demand. You're demanding a safer workspace. You're demanding being compensated for your work fairly. We talked about it in the Google autocomplete episode. Like, acting, performing, writing, dancing, whatever, it's a skill that you hone. And that is a special skill, and you should be paid handsomely for the special skill that you have taken most of your life to hone. A representative for SAG-AFTRA told the Washington Post, "We were really looking to not only increase but also to change the way that money is distributed in the streaming system so that it becomes more sustainable for our members. The way that the business model has changed and then the contracts have not been kept up with left our members in a very tight squeeze." I do remember hearing that there was a lot of conversation about how the guilds, both the screen and the writing guilds, were on contracts that work for cable television, but we're not in a cable television society anymore. And if that's kind of the way, like, in your mind to frame it, that was the statement that made me be like, oh, I get it. Because it does kind of get into, like, technical stuff about, like, what is making money, what's not making money, who's making the money. And it was interesting to hear them say that, like, we're on a cable contract when the world is on a streaming entertainment system. Yeah, there was also a really big, like I mentioned, deal on AI. Again, that rep from SAG-AFTRA said that the issue of artificial intelligence was one of the last and most difficult issues to be resolved. In light of widespread fears among actors that rapidly advancing technology will be used to simulate their likeness and eventually replace them. If we didn't get that part of the deal, then what are we doing? We're not really able to protect our members in the way that they need to be protected. In the world of AI, 3 months is equivalent to a year. That's also, like, really valid because AI is so rapidly growing and changing. I mean, like, OpenAI, the people that made ChatGPT, just put out, I don't know what it's called. Let me look up what it's called. OpenAI video. It's like you can make videos. Sora. They literally, February 15th, so, like, 2 months ago, they just put out Sora, and it's basically, like, it's like DALL-E, like the images or whatever, but it's, like, videos. It's the craziest thing. I played around with it for a little bit in one of my marketing classes. We, like, played around with it for a little bit, but, like, it's so crazy. Yeah, but there was a really big unity across members of all the guilds, and, they were all kind of fighting for these different things, and they were all fighting together. An important note about the writer's strike is that one was also held in the 60s. And that was, like, a joint strike between the actors and the writers. And this didn't only delay work for actors, but it delayed movie releases, which is, I mean, obviously work for actors, but delayed movie releases for audiences, and there is a quote from, I believe it's Bob Iger. Let me get the quote correct before I just start talking to him. Yeah, so Bob Iger was like not into it. So Disney CEO Bob Iger says writers and actors are not being realistic with the strikes. It's very disturbing to me. He said something about dude, someone said something about them like starving. And I was like, that's really dramatic. It was horrifying. I don't, when did he say that? Someone from Disney was like, I'll let him starve. Like, oh my god. Yeah, but he doesn't think, so Bob Iger, the like CEO of Disney, who's like, you're literally the CEO of Disney, like the most powerful company in the world. Like, what are you talking about? And, you know, he's out here talking about how he doesn't think it's realistic, but it's like, babe, you have the money. You have the power to make this happen. Like, it was just so... I just remember it being weird, and, this is not the quote, but it is something important that I have from the Washington Post article. Adam Conover from Adam Ruins Everything slams studio's cold strike endgame. They're not starving us out, we're starving them out. The comedian, writer, and actor says if they don't win this fight, we will not have our careers to go back to in 5 years. Which is genuinely really scary, because it is a conversation about, like, you've worked your whole life for this, and then, you know, and you've already made it to the part of this industry, and it's cutthroat, and there's people that will never, you know, get to where you're at in, like, writing and being, like, a series writer and stuff, or, like, a, you know, long-running actor, and it's hard, and it's been hard, and it's like the people still don't take you seriously enough to treat you like a true employee. And the best analogy that I could come up with when this was all happening in the summer and I was getting really stressed out about it, because I'm like, you know, this is my industry, this is the world I'm going into. Like, I very strongly stand by and applaud the performers and creators and talents that are standing up for the industry now, so then when I come into it, I can continue that work. But I was getting really scared for them, and we, you know, it's the future of my industry, you know, and there was a lot of fear for me. Like, I'm halfway through college, I'm about to head into it, like, is it gonna look like this all the time? And the best analogy I came up with for it was someone saying that the actors are being unreasonable, i.e. Bob Iger. Someone saying the actors are being unreasonable, or, like, even just, like, the general public being like, oh, they work in Hollywood, they don't need to be striking, they have all the resources, is like saying a cashier at Walmart is a multi-billionaire because they work for a multi-billion-dollar company. You know what I mean? Like, the insane levels in distance between roles and the insane levels of power imbalances in that are absolutely... it's just, it's so, like, not comparable. Like, these world-running entertainment CEOs and executives that are, like, saying that the actors are being dramatic and the writers are asking for too much, it's like, we're trying to make it better, and we're trying to make it safer for us, and it's just... It's alarming to hear the people with that much power say that, because it does really make you realize that it's always going to be a money game. And like I said in the Google autocomplete episode, it's always a business when it comes to making money, but when it comes to paying your creative talents properly, you do it because you love it, though. But it's art. And no, it's still a business. We're going to get to a really good quote for the ABT strikes in just a minute. We're going to get to a really good quote that I think ties this all together. However, I did want to talk about the SAG-AFTRA, the agreement that was come to. So, as of 12:01 a.m. on November 9th, our strike was officially suspended and all picket locations were closed. We will be in touch with the coming days with the information about celebration gatherings all around the country. I almost went to one of those too. I really should have. In a contract valued at over $1 billion in new wages and benefit plan funding, we have achieved a deal of extraordinary scope that includes above-pattern minimum compensation increases, unprecedented provisions for consent and compensation that will protect members from the threat of AI, and for the first time establishes a streaming participation bonus. Our pension and health caps have been substantially raised, which will bring much needed value to our plans. In addition, the deal includes numerous improvements for multiple categories, including outsized compensation increases for background performers and critical contract provisions protecting diverse communities. We've arrived at a contract that will enable SAG-AFTRA members from every category to build sustainable careers. Many thousands of performers now and into the future will benefit from this work. And I want to take a pause from reading this statement and say thank you to the actors and creatives and writers that did strike for this agreement. Your work will not be unnoticed by the future generations of artists. Yes, we would like to thank our union siblings, the workers that power this industry, for the sacrifices they have made while supporting our strike and that of the Writers Guild of America. We stand together in solidarity and will be there for you when you need us. And the biggest thing about this was just seeing the entire industry come together, and, you know, they had reached an agreement that kind of, you know, kicked back on some of these things. You know, it wasn't always perfect. I mean, nothing ever will be perfect in a negotiation, but that's, you know, why you negotiate on it. I do have a couple quotes that I want to add about, you know, the things that they did come into. So, let me find those. Alright, so according to the SAG-AFTRA Strikes website, there was offered a 5% wage increase, even though that meant that their 2023 earnings will effectively be a significant pay cut due to inflation, and it was likely that they will be working for less than their wages were in 2020 in the year of 2026. And then that was kind of a quote, a moment that picked up the strike, like, oh, with inflation, with all this, we're not going to be working. When SAG and WGA strikers asked about using performers' likenesses without consent by replicating them with AI technology, the board that they were pitching this to, which is the American, let me just once again get this acronym right. This is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, is who SAG-AFTRA was promoting to. So, the American Motion Picture and Television, what is it? I literally get all these acronyms wrong. It is the it is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. They said that they want to be able to scan a background performer's image, pay them for half a day's labor, and then use an individual's likeness for any purpose forever without their consent, and be able to use someone's images, likenesses, and performances to train new generative AI systems without consent or compensation. Again, on the topic of increasing training for hair and makeup artists to work with different textures and skin tones, the response from the guild was, begrudgingly, we will do this for principal performers, but background actors are on their own. And lastly, initially on increasing financial compensation for their work appearing on streaming services, the Alliance simply said no. However, further negotiation deals have come to include a small increase. So there was, you know, a lot of debate about these strikes and what all is happening with them. And obviously it's not perfect, and we're still going to keep fighting for it. But these little tiny baby steps, these little tiny bits of success are all still helping us come and see and grow as an industry, as a team. And the more that we keep standing up to, you know, the alliances and the boards and the Bob Igers of the world, the more that our industry will change. Next, I want to talk about the American Ballet Theater and the American Guild of Musical Artists strike. This one was more recently and lasted significantly shorter than the SAG-AFTRA one, but that does not mean that it is no less important. This is from the American Guild of Musical Artists' own website, and they said that 95.6% of artists were in favor of authorizing the strike. Artists at ABT have diligently been working under an expired contract since September, as well as the American Guild of Musical Artists performers. So currently, American Ballet Theater is proposing a mere 1% cost of living adjustment to dancers who have seen no such adjustment in the past 8 years. For the record, American Ballet Theater is in Manhattan, New York, one of the most expensive cities in the world to live. Proposing salaries that would leave over 20% of the company living in a below living wage in New York City, falling significantly behind industry peers in terms of work weeks and retirement contributions, further exacerbating the financial strain on American ballet theater artists. The last time the American Guild of Music Artists voted to authorize a strike was in 2018 under similar circumstances. Someone from the American Guild said, "A work stoppage is the most powerful action union members can take, but a strike is always a last resort. We aim to keep our members working, but not at the expense of their health, safety, and well-being. With American Ballet Theater, we find ourselves at a juncture where a strike is a serious consideration. We call on ABT leadership to rise to the moment and come to a fair contract that values these tremendous artists commensurate with their skill, artistry, and dedication. If not, we are prepared." ABT's management failure to respond adequately has jeopardized American Ballet Theater's upcoming engagement of Swan Lake at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. So that was in early February. That was February 7th. And then on February 16th, American Ballet Theater reaches a tentative collaborative agreement with dancers and stage managers. So this came straight out of ABT, straight out of New York, and Susan Jaffe, the artistic director, stated, "This agreement is a testament to our shared commitment to the art of ballet and to each other. It represents a significant investment in our artists and sets a new standard for support and recognition within our company. As we celebrate this momentous achievement, we look forward to continuing to push the boundaries of artistic expression and inspire audiences around the world." This was really important. Isabella Boylston, who you may know, she's kind of like the face of ABT at the moment. When talking about it, she said, they would be in these negotiations and they would be like, the dancers are a really big part of this company. Like, we understand where you're coming from, and all the dancers were like, "We are not a part of your company. We are the company." And that's kind of the note that I want to end on with this kind of like broad sort of conversation, opening the door about the conversation about strikes. Alexandra Basmagi, the court of ballet dancer, is the one who is quoted as saying, "No, we are the company." And I think the biggest thing is this. I just want this podcast to open the door to talking about strikes, to talking about fair wages in the arts, talking about the use of AI in the arts, and I really want to boil it all the way back to something that I truly feel in my soul. We are the company. That, Disney Film Syndicate or whatever their studio isn't Disney Film Syndicate or whatever without the actors. We are not a part of the company, we are the company. And we includes actors, writers, directors, set builders, janitors, people who make props, PAs, people that work on that movie, on that project, on that dance, on that show. If there are creative hands in it, they are your company. Disney is not the boardroom. Disney is, it keeps coming back to Disney. Disney is not Bob Iger in his glass skyscraper boardroom. Disney is the love and the art and the creatives, and that's where the memories come from. I don't even think that, like all of your childhood Disney memories are from the art. I don't even think I realized that, Disney was, I mean, you don't have any grasp on corporate companies as a child. You know, it's like the art is what makes Disney Disney, and it very obviously wouldn't be Disney without it. Therefore, the performers are the companies and should be taken the most serious. Not even just the performers, but like the creatives are the company and should be taken the most seriously. And let me go on the record of my own podcast and say that it should never have to come to a strike. It should never have to come to a strike. It should never be such a big power imbalance. It should never be such an argumentative this way, that way. You're asking for too much. That's dramatic. We shouldn't be doing that. Like, we just need to support the artists that support you, because without the artists, the Bob Igers of the world aren't making any money. But now the artists are making no money, even though they are lining the pockets of the, big corporate people upstairs, And, this was kind of a short episode, but I really just kind of wanted to open the door to conversation. Obviously, I don't know everything. I've never struck myself. Obviously, this is just kind of like online research. I am speaking off some very, some reputable sources. And I just kind of wanted to use this really speedy little episode to open the door of conversation about wages and AI and standing up for ourselves in the arts, and what does it mean if in 3 years when we're renegotiating, what does it mean in 20 years when a whole new generation is coming in. And I just kind of wanted to use this episode to open the door to that conversation. So thank you for listening. If you want to follow the journey, you can follow the podcast at BFA Baby Podcast, and you can follow me at Tata's Ballet, periods between words. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Merit and a kiss.